Welcome to the Productivity Podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined by Ed Hogg, CEO of Solved by AI. Hi, Ed.
Hi, Simon. Thank you very much for having me.
No, you're more than welcome. So a topic that is or should be at the forefront of anybody in any business's mind is AI, and we're going to get into the detail and hopefully keep it simple for those that are entering this realm. But before we do that, let's find out a bit about you. Do you want to give us a kind of Ed's career biog?
Yep. So I started life as a Formula One engineer, working for Mercedes, and then went to design race cars for Bentley up in Crewe at their beautiful factory up there. While I was there, I was responsible for working on steering racks on the car, as well as a large number of other components. And we introduced some very simplistic AI into how the steering rack works. And that is where my love for AI started. So once I'd finished designing that particular car, I left that business and went to go and work in workforce management, and discovered that in workforce management there is an awful lot of data about rotas, about sales, about demand, and was able to build a number of AIs off the back of that. And have since grown Solved by AI to be a company that solves problems for people using artificial intelligence, not just in the workforce management space, but in a wider space entirely, in kind of retail, manufacturing, and hospitality.
Excellent. So you'll have been, the time of recording was just after the British Grand Prix. You'll have been pleased, not pleased with how yesterday went in your old world?
Very, very happy as a Mercedes fan. My family, my wife still work for Mercedes. So yeah, very happy that Lewis finally won another race after 945 days.
Good. Not that you were counting.
Not that we were counting in this household.
Good. So let's start, and as I said, we'll try and keep this simple for people that are venturing into this world or have seen bits online. It's all over kind of LinkedIn and Twitter if you follow the right people. So just talk to me about the difference between AI and ML, machine learning.
Yeah, so AI is a really broad field. So it's kind of about creating systems that can perform tasks typically requiring human intelligence, like problem solving and decision making. And they are often comparative things. Is this person who they say they are? What information do I require? Machine learning is the subset of AI, and so that's where you train an algorithm on historic data or data that exists within a database, in order to enable systems to learn and make predictions, or help it make decisions or predictions specifically without explicit programming. So where you let the system learn and grow, and we either have a couple of different types within that. So we've got two that are common. So we've got supervised, where you say, here is the answer, yes or no. There's a finite solution of what data is available, and we're trying to mark the correct answer or not. Or we have unsupervised learning, where we let the system look at what was the input, what was the output, and let it make decisions and grow on its own. And that's what most people start to think of AI, as it's learning over time and getting better and better.
So the more data you feed it, the more ability it has to learn, and the more times it does it, the more accurate it gets. Is that the general theory?
Yes, it is. You want to give it good quality data. So the more good quality, or the more right answers you give it, or the more good wrong answers you give it, the better it gets. We obviously have a world where there's, especially in things like Twitter, there is a lot of misinformation out there, and so it's really important when we're training our AIs, when we're using machine learning, that we give our system really high quality data that is correct or not correct, in order to get the outputs that we want, and not just noise or fake results, fake news. Is the way that.
And is it as simple as treating it like Google, so typing in a Google search of, find me the best X, Y, and Z, or should we just stick to Google if we're kind of working in a more binary way?
Yeah, so with ChatGPT, Bard, Gemini, those kind of ones, you can act like that. You can use it to search, to find the right answer, to guide it in the right direction. With some of the other applications, you do need to use data science to evaluate the accuracy of the model and to work out what is the best solution or what is the best answer for it. We have examples such as the COVID vaccine, the mRNA Oxford AstraZeneca virus that was developed by AI by a group of people from the University of Oxford and a spin out from that. And that was an accuracy problem where they had to specifically look into the data, go into the metadata, try to understand it, and you need to have multiple PhDs to be able to understand it. That's the most complex type of AI we have. A lot of the AIs that we work with are really trying to make it a much more simple for people to be accessed. So that's why ChatGPT has taken off so much, is because it's the first AI where you can just treat it like Google and get the answer as it's learning to do multiple different functions. So kind of a multimedia different system.
And you mentioned some of the kind of names there. So the landscape seems to be growing almost every day with new things, but we've got maybe the common ones people have heard of. So ChatGPT, Bard stroke Gemini, which is the Google offering. There's Sora, is it Anthropic, there's Kling AI or King AI I've seen today. There's all sorts of ones that seem to pop up, but there's a plethora of systems that you can start to use, some free, some limited free, some paid for out there. So that's a challenge for people like myself who are kind of starting to look at this and value its importance. But where do you jump in?
Yeah, so the three kind of biggest out there are Claude, which is from Anthropic, Gemini, which is from Google, and ChatGPT, which is from OpenAI. And those are the most used, and they're also the broadest trained. So they've been trained on the most data and to go the widest. Claude, which is the Anthropic answer, is trained to give us a much more narrow answer set than the other two. It's meant to be as ethical and as sensible as possible. So you can use it because it's the most ethical. It also is designed intentionally to run in more ethical ways. It uses better server processing technology than OpenAI. It uses a range of different other tools that are available. So you can think of Claude as kind of being the most ethical one. Kind of from ChatGPT, that is the best at giving you just direct answers. If you want to have a conversation with something in order to get an answer, that's the best one. You can think of ChatGPT as the know-it-all in the office. You can turn around and ask it to do things and what's going on and what it's up to really quickly, and it's really good for a daily user. But it's not as accurate as Gemini. So Gemini is definitely the most accurate. It's also fully integrated with the most tools, so you can really get high quality Google Doc products. So the Google Sheets and that kind of stuff. You can also get really good integrations between Gemini and Microsoft products. Although ChatGPT is definitely starting to move over there, having been acquired by Microsoft, but the Gemini product suite is pretty useful, and it's already in what you do. So if you have the Google app on your phone and you can search for it, it's really useful on that side. So Gemini is kind of the most accurate. It does come with some caveats in that it is the most data intensive. So it's sometimes like 50 to 50 times more energy expensive to use Gemini to answer a question rather than just using Google on its own.
So lots of choice, and having played with probably all of the ones you've talked about, I've experienced some interesting results, let's say, some probably accurate results, some points where it still looks like and feels like it's in its infancy, so it either doesn't work or there's a misconnection or it can't connect to what it's connecting to, I assume, because so many people at this point are playing with it. So is it fair to say this is on a journey and there's momentum, but we're going to see that snowball effect where it gets quicker and faster and better and more accurate in a much shorter space of time?
Yeah. So if you think about the kind of background of how they work, they're basically training off the internet. So they're training off of just heaps of data that they've scraped off the internet, whether that be every song lyric that's ever written, all of Wikipedia, lots of Google search data, all of the Google Analytics data that goes into Gemini. So it's all of this data that it's trained off of, which is trillions of records. So it's an absolutely massive data set, and they then have to filter that for what is useful. What they have been really good at on all three of those kind of areas is the initial filtering. So they've managed to remove anything that was written in gobbledygook or Wingdings for those that used to use the random word fonts. But now they have to start being more accurate. So they have to get it to a new level. At the moment, it's about the level of a graduate from university. Now we're talking about trying to get it to be a PhD student from university in every single subject possible. And that's what most people are expecting ChatGPT 5 to be. So we're at ChatGPT 4.0 right now, and ChatGPT 5, which is due about 14 months' time, the target is for it to be able to complete a PhD in every single subject possible. And that's the kind of intelligence, and that's the kind of trajectory you're going on. We're 3 years through a 7-year degree with these things now, and they've still got 4 years worth of degree to go, but it's going to happen in 14 months.
Yeah, and so that must be a benefit in terms of, like you say, pulling all that information for the internet. But back to the point of feeding good data, there's, as Donald Trump would say, lots of false news on the internet as well. So I suppose there's a danger that it has to start to be more contextual in understanding what's true and what's false, which must be quite difficult to train.
Yeah, it's the reason that it's going to take so long for ChatGPT 5 to come out is because they have to solve that problem. And some things you can get experts to come in and give an opinion on. So medical data, for instance, if you ask ChatGPT some medical questions, it's pretty high quality on that because it uses high quality journals only to train off of, rather than just kind of stories that it's got of this is how I fixed things. But there is a lot of chat boards and other things out there that it needs to remove the wrong answer from. But it also wants to learn from the right answer. So going through and reviewing up likes on things and those kind of problems is a noisy data set. So yeah, it's the biggest problem, and it's part of the new EU AI Act that they have to make public from the next ChatGPT launch, and the same for Claude and Gemini. When the new ones for those come out, what the data in question that they're using to train it is, and that will be really interesting because there's also a lot of data that companies feel they have rights for, such as music back catalogs, etc., that they don't want. That some companies don't want included in the ChatGPT model. And so trying to increase the accuracy of the model while taking into account all of these rules is a challenge that they're overcoming. But it's a challenge that all data scientists are trying to overcome, the kind of protection around data.
Yeah, and it's kind of back to that, when you see the list of the predicted jobs that they'll impact, it's all those what I'd call binary or more binary ones. So medicine, law, things where there's not a definite answer, but there's certainly in law, you've got all your reference studies and all the historic cases to make judgment calls on and test cases. Medicine, clearly you've got symptoms that you can narrow down into potential issues, and you might get closer, you might end up with a cluster rather than it being a very wide one, through to more opinion or grey-based facts, which I suppose, like you say, depends on where you're pulling the data from, whether it's blue, red, pink or purple. And yeah, you've got, in terms of the new app that's coming out of that whole, I think it was Scarlett Johansson, wasn't it, where they asked to use her voice a couple of times and didn't, and then the voice was allegedly not hers but very similar.
Yeah, it's scary in terms of how they were able to get a voice actor to be half close to her and then use an AI to combine Scarlett Johansson's voice, and that's an interesting lawsuit to follow as to what happens on that front. But in terms of the kind of jobs that it's going to take, it's definitely not going after, if you are a labourer, if you are an AI is not going to be able to lay a new driveway for anybody anytime soon. It's not going to be doing that job. It's going after office jobs. That's the space that it's in. At the moment, it is not clever enough to do those office jobs, though. It is about enhancing the people that do those office jobs to allow them to make the decisions where there is the knowledge, the local area knowledge that is really useful, and remove the need to write needless emails from them by just getting ChatGPT to write the bulk of the text by just putting some notes in. That's the kind of automation and speed process that you can expect right now.
Yeah, and I kind of see it as, if you can, rather than it take jobs, if you can free up people to focus on the intellectual stuff, the stuff that makes a difference, and then in the background you've got these bots running that's doing the, connecting to your supplier X to check that your invoice has been paid, or to raise an invoice, or to do the stuff that can be automated. You can use your people in a different way. I don't necessarily see it as something that decimates the workforce and everybody's laying driveways in that example. I think if you're smart, you can harness the power of both to get the best out of both.
Yeah, I think one of the expectations is that customer service is going to improve with this, because managers are going to be, especially in retail and hospitality setting, are going to be able to interact with customers because their time is going to be allowed to do that. So they're going to have time to speak to customers, handle problems in a much better way than at the moment, where they have to fill out 40 pages worth of documentation in an evening, and 39 of them are purely for head office use. And managers are going to be able to manage and actually interact and build relationships and do those kind of things. So we could quite conceivably see a significant increase in the level of customer service that people get off the back of this.
Good. That's good to hear. And other thoughts in terms of where this is heading in the future?
So one of the big problems we have is power. I appreciate this is probably not the podcast for whether nuclear power stations are useful or not, but
Not normally.
There is going to be a power problem where, as ChatGPT bar Gemini increase, there's already laws in California preventing how much power that they take from the grid. This is being deployed globally around the world, and it's going to get to a point in the future where if we go on the current trajectory where we need more power than we're able to produce for this plus electric cars. And so there's going to be some legislation that needs to come out to handle that. So what you will see is things like Gemini Mini, which deploys locally to your PC and runs it off your PC only, which doesn't take as much power and runs as if you're running an Excel spreadsheet. So that is the expectation, where you have locally trained or downloadable neural networks and trying to reduce the amount of power in them. If they can solve that problem, then it's the future for AI, especially within the kind of operational and HR space, and especially retail and hospitality, is in making sure that you just have the right, you are optimizing. It's all going to be about optimization, about reducing unnecessary losses within the business by solving the simple low-hanging fruit, and you're going to have a highly optimized supply chain, a highly optimized workforce, and they're going to be able to do their job well and focus on the things that really add value to your business, rather than the periphery, the red tape.
Well, maybe we ask AI to solve the power problem. Surely that can come up with some of the ideas.
Yes, although some of the answers it's going to give are going to be from scraped off Twitter, so you're going to get a range of different opinions there.
Happy days. So if this has kind of helped people understand a little bit about what its potential is and how you can navigate it, if people want to get in touch with you and explore the conversation further on a just a theoretical level, or get involved in some of the stuff you're doing at Solved by AI, where's the best place for them to get in touch?
So drop us an email at info@solvedby.ai, and we'll get in contact there. We're also on all social media in terms of LinkedIn, so hit us up there. And we have our own podcast series, which is fresh, called the AI Leadership Podcast Series, which you're going to be a guest on very soon, Simon.
I am indeed.
We love to have chats about AI and carry on the discussion about AI there.
Brilliant. And we'll link all the kind of your profile through on the show notes so people can click to get in touch just to make life easier. So Ed, always enjoyed chatting. Your kind of brain's the size of a house, so it always, I know it's a challenge to take me on the journey with you because I don't really understand it, but thanks for simplifying. Thanks for being really clear and concise in terms of where we're at and where we're heading, and we will catch up soon.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Simon.